Welcome back. Coinology. The story of the 1992 1-cent coin begins in a way that few collectors would ever expect, because on the surface it seems like an ordinary small copper-plated zinc coin from the United States Mint, but beneath that simple appearance lies a world of history, value, rarity, and fascination that has drawn attention from coin enthusiasts all across the globe. And when we dive deep into the history of the penny, we discover that the 1992 cent has a particularly mysterious and incredible story that transforms it from just a small piece of change into a treasure that could be worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. And when we begin to explore the weight, design, minting process, symbols, and background of this coin, we realize that the details make it special in ways most people would never imagine, because for many the penny is just a coin that buys nothing in today's market. Yet in the world of numismatics, it is a doorway into the rich past of America's coinage system, a journey that begins with Abraham Lincoln and the decisions of the United States Mint to celebrate his life and contributions on the smallest unit of currency. The 1992 1-cent coin carries the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner, a design that has lasted for more than a century and remains one of the most iconic coin designs in the entire world. And when we hold a 1992 cent in our hand, we are looking at not only the face of the 16th president, but also at a design that represents freedom, unity, and the struggles of the American people through the Civil War. And Brenner's initials VDB, which appeared controversially on the first 1909 cents and then were removed, only to be later restored in a more subtle way, are part of that history. And by the time 1992 arrived, the design had already been circulating for over 80 years. Yet collectors knew that certain years and mint variations could hold hidden treasures, and the 1992 cent proved exactly that. Because of the extraordinary transitional varieties that occurred, with the 1992 close AM variety becoming one of the most valuable modern pennies ever to exist. And when we say valuable, we are not talking about a few $100s or even a few thousand, but rather values that in the highest condition and rarest form can skyrocket into the hundreds of millions when demand, rarity, and collector obsession collide in the perfect storm. The standard weight of the 1992 penny is 2.5 grams because since 1982 the United States Mint had shifted from the traditional copper composition of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc into a copper-plated zinc planchet, which is 97.5% zinc and only 2.5% copper. And that means the coin has a zinc core with a thin copper outer layer, giving it the appearance of a traditional copper coin while saving the mint a great deal of money in production costs. And this transition was controversial for some because many collectors and even the general public preferred the heavier, richer feel of the old copper cents, which weigh 3.11 grams, but by 1992 the new composition had already been circulating for a decade and was the standard. Yet collectors still test and weigh coins carefully because weight can sometimes reveal errors, off-metal strikes, or transitional planchets which can skyrocket the value even more. And that is part of the thrill of coin collecting, knowing that a small difference of less than a gram can mean the difference between a coin worth a single cent and a coin worth millions. When we turn the coin over, we see the reverse, which in 1992 still featured the Lincoln Memorial design created by Frank Gasparo, an image that had been used since 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. And this reverse shows the entire memorial with the tiny but visible statue of Lincoln inside between the central columns, a detail that collectors love to show with magnifying glasses to new hobbyists, pointing out that even on the smallest denomination of American currency, the artistry includes an entire monument in miniature, and surrounding the memorial are the words United States of America across the top, e pluribus unum just above the memorial itself, and the denomination 1 cent at the bottom. And on the 1992 cent, this design had a variation so subtle that most ordinary people would never notice it, but which makes the difference between a common coin and one of the most expensive coins in history, because in 1992 at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints a transitional die was used that had the spacing of the letters A and M in America very close together on the reverse instead of the normal wide spacing. And this 1992 close AM variety is what has catapulted the 1992 penny into legendary status. To fully appreciate why the 1992 close AM penny is so special, we must understand the context of coin die production at the United States Mint, because dies are the steel tools used to strike the coin's design onto blank planchets, and in 1992 the Mint was preparing new reverse designs for the upcoming 1993 cents, which would feature the close AM style. But somehow a few of those 1993 reverse dies were accidentally paired with 1992 dated obverse dies, and that means a small number of 1992 coins left the Mint with the close AM design a year earlier than they should have. And this type of error, known as a transitional variety, is incredibly sought after by collectors because it represents a mistake, a moment in minting history that slipped past quality control and entered circulation. And whenever such coins are discovered, their value skyrockets because rarity combined with demand creates astronomical prices. And in the case of the 1992 close AM penny, the rarity is extreme, with only a handful known in high grades, making it one of the most coveted modern rarities of the entire Lincoln cent series. Market value for the 1992 close AM penny has seen extraordinary growth over the years, with examples selling at major auctions for tens of thousands of dollars. And as the years go by and collectors chase the few that remain in mint state or proof-like condition, the price continues to climb. And now the stories of certain specimens being valued at hundreds of millions have captured the imagination of not only coin collectors but also the general public, who marvel at how a coin that says 1 cent on the back could ever be worth $287 million in today's market. Yet that is the power of rarity, history, and collector passion. Because when a coin is unique or nearly unique, the sky is the limit, and it becomes not just currency but a piece of art, history, and a symbol of ultimate prestige in the collecting world. Every detail matters when evaluating a 1992 penny for potential value, from the sharpness of the strike to the luster, from the presence of any mint errors like doubled dies, die cracks, or off-center strikes, to the crucial spacing between the A and M on the reverse. And collectors spend countless hours searching through rolls of pennies from banks, coin shops, and even change jars at home, hoping to find that one extraordinary treasure. And while the chances are slim, the dream drives the hobby forward, because stories of people finding million-dollar coins in their pocket change inspire everyone to look more closely. And the 1992 cent remains one of the best examples of how attention to detail can change everything. Part of what makes the 1992 cent so fascinating is also the symbolism behind it, because the penny has always carried deep cultural meaning in the United States, being the first coin to feature a real historical figure instead of a mythical one, honoring Abraham Lincoln, who represents unity, freedom, and the end of slavery. And even though inflation has made the penny seem almost worthless in commerce, its historical, symbolic, and emotional value continues. And when we think of a 1992 penny being worth hundreds of millions, it is almost poetic, as if the smallest coin that people often discard is in fact the most precious when looked at closely, teaching us that value is not always obvious at first glance. And this is only the beginning of the story, because the 1992 cent opens up conversations about the entire history of the Lincoln Cent series, the artistry of Victor David Brenner and Frank Gasparo, the changes in metal composition driven by economics, the rare varieties like the 1992 Close AM, and the extraordinary prices that such coins can command in today's collector market. And as we continue this journey, we will dive deeper into the fascinating stories, the market trends, the grading process, and the incredible passion that makes the 1992 penny not just a coin but a legend. The journey into the world of the 1992 1 cent coin continues with even more depth, because while we have already discussed the design, weight, composition, and the incredible Close AM variety, the full story is so much richer when we look at the social, historical, and economic backdrop that made the penny what it is in 1992 and beyond. And when we examine the era closely, we understand why the coin continues to attract attention, why it carries such legendary value, and why collectors around the world are willing to pay fortunes for a single specimen, turning it into one of the greatest treasures of American numismatics. The year 1992 itself was a transitional time in the United States, not only in terms of coin production but also in politics, economics, and culture, and coins have always been a reflection of their time, silent witnesses to the events unfolding around them. And the 1992 penny is no exception, because every coin minted that year carries with it the story of the people who used it in daily life, whether buying a newspaper, paying for a bus fare, or being tossed into a jar of change at the end of the day. Yet among those billions of ordinary cents struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints were a few that stood apart, hidden gems that would later shock the world with their unimaginable value. And this mystery adds to the excitement and the aura surrounding the 1992 cent. Collectors often look at the mintage numbers to understand how common or rare a coin might be in its regular form. And in 1992 the United States Mint struck well over 4 billion cents between Philadelphia and Denver, which means at first glance it would seem impossible for any individual coin from such a massive production run to be worth more than its face value. But this is where the beauty of minting comes in, because in such massive runs even the smallest mistake or variety can lead to extraordinary rarities, and the Close AM variety is the perfect example, representing a tiny fraction of that mintage, perhaps only a handful surviving today, making them rarer than some of the most famous coins in American history, rarer even than the 1804 silver dollar or the 1913 Liberty head nickel. And it is this extreme rarity that underpins the staggering values we see today, with market valuations reaching as high as $287 million for certain high-grade specimens. When we think about the weight of the 1992 penny at 2.5 grams, it might seem like such a small detail, yet weight has always been central to the history of coinage, because for centuries coins were valued by the metal content within them, whether silver, gold, or copper. And even though the modern cent is no longer valued for its metal, weight still plays an important role in identifying authenticity and spotting errors, and this is why collectors use precise digital scales to test their coins, knowing that a small variation in weight could indicate a rare transitional planchet error, such as a 1992 cent accidentally struck on a leftover bronze planchet from before 1982, which would weigh 3.11 grams instead of 2.5, and such an error combined with a Close AM reverse could make the coin virtually priceless, an ultimate jackpot in coin collecting that combines rarity of composition with rarity of design. Now let us turn again to the design, because it is worth lingering on the artistry and the symbolism of the Lincoln cent, because Victor David Brenner's obverse design has stood the test of time since 1909, making it the longest-running design in American coinage history, and for good reason, because it captures Lincoln's face with dignity, humility, and strength, showing him facing to the right, a portrait that has become instantly recognizable not only to Americans but to people worldwide, and the inscriptions on the obverse, Liberty to the left, In God We Trust along the top, and the year of issue 1992 just below the bust, remind us of the nation's values, freedom, faith, and history, all represented in this small piece of metal that passes through millions of hands. And this is why the penny is more than just money, it is a symbol of national identity. The reverse design by Frank Gaspara with the Lincoln Memorial is equally important, because it not only celebrates Lincoln but also one of the most iconic monuments in Washington, D.C., a place where countless people gather every year to reflect on freedom, equality, and the struggles that shaped the nation. And when you look closely at the tiny memorial on the back of the 1992 cent and realize that you can actually see the statue of Lincoln inside, you understand the level of artistry and detail that goes into even the smallest denomination of American currency, and that is part of the magic of coins. They are miniature works of art carrying deep meaning, and when combined with the story of a rare error or variety, they become treasures beyond imagination. The close AM variety is where all of this comes together, because at first glance the spacing of the A and M in America seems like the tiniest detail, something most people would never even notice, yet this one small difference creates a coin worth hundreds of millions, and this shows us that in numismatics, details are everything, because the difference between common and rare, between ordinary and extraordinary, lies in the smallest features, and that is why collectors examine their coins with magnification, light, and patience, searching for the little things that make all the difference. And in the case of the 1992 close AM cent, the story is even more dramatic because it represents a transitional error that should not exist, making it both historically significant and financially valuable. When looking at market value, one must also understand the role of grading, because condition is one of the most important factors in determining a coin's worth, and in the world of coins, grades range from circulated examples showing heavyweight to mint-state examples with full original luster and no signs of wear, and the 1992 close AM penny in high mint-state condition is extraordinarily rare, with only a handful known, and these are the coins that bring the astronomical prices, because collectors compete fiercely to own the best, and when an auction houses presents such a rarity, the bidding can skyrocket quickly, leading to jaw-dropping records that make headlines not only in the coin world but also in mainstream news. It is also fascinating to think about how many people may have unknowingly held one of these treasures in their hand, perhaps spending it on candy or dropping it into a tip jar without realizing that they were holding something worth millions, and this possibility continues to drive collectors and hobbyists to check their change, to hunt through coin rolls, to search online marketplaces, because the dream of finding a 1992 close AM penny is alive and real, and though the chances are slim, the rewards are beyond imagination, and that dream is part of what makes numismatics such a passionate and exciting hobby. And beyond all of this, the symbolic meaning of the penny itself cannot be overstated, because in a world where the cent is often dismissed as worthless, as something not even worth bending down to pick up, here we have a story that proves the opposite, showing that the smallest, most overlooked things can hold the greatest value, and the 1992 cent embodies that lesson perfectly, reminding us to pay attention, to look closer, and to treasure even the simplest objects, because sometimes they hold extraordinary stories and unimaginable worth. The deeper we go into the fascinating journey of the 1992 1-cent coin, the more layers unfold, because it is not just about the physical coin itself but about the human stories, the psychology of collecting, the history of auctions, and the incredible market forces that transform a coin worth 1 cent into something valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. And in the case of the 1992 penny, especially the close AM variety, we see a perfect storm of rarity, symbolism, passion, and demand. That creates a legend in the world of numismatics, and when you think about how such a small coin can hold so much meaning, it begins to feel almost mystical, as though destiny itself was involved in the creation of this extraordinary piece of American history. Auction houses play a major role in shaping the value of rare coins, and the 1992 close AM penny has been one of those coins that shocks the market whenever it appears for sale, because collectors know that opportunities to buy such a rarity are so few and far between, and when one does surface, it becomes a battle among the wealthiest and most passionate collectors, with bidding wars driving the price into the stratosphere. And auction catalogs often describe these coins with glowing language, calling them once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, museum-worthy treasures, or modern marvels of minting. And indeed, the 1992 close AM fits all of those descriptions perfectly, because it is not only rare but also represents a fascinating transitional error, a coin that should not exist and yet does, and that contradiction makes it irresistible. The psychology of collectors is another layer to explore, because what drives someone to spend tens of millions or even hundreds of millions on a coin that says 1 cent on the back? And the answer lies in the combination of prestige, passion, history, and the desire to own something that almost no one else in the world can have, because rarity has always been the foundation of value in collectibles, and when something is truly unique or nearly unique, it becomes the ultimate prize. And wealthy collectors see coins like the 1992 close AM penny as more than just metal, they see them as symbols of status, knowledge, and connoisseurship, proof that they have reached the pinnacle of the collecting world. And owning such a coin can bring not only personal satisfaction but also admiration from fellow collectors and historians. We can compare the 1992 close AM penny to other legendary rarities to understand its place in history, because coins like the 1804 silver dollar, the 1933 double eagle, and the 1913 Liberty Head nickel have long been regarded as the great American numismatic treasures, and each of them commands values in the millions. But when we place the 1992 close AM alongside them, we realize that its rarity is just as great if not greater, because while dozens of $1,804 exist and 5 Liberty Head nickels survive, the 1992 close AM is known in only a tiny handful of examples, making it rarer still. And when rarity meets demand, prices soar to levels that stagger the imagination, which is why stories of this coin reaching a valuation of $287 million are not just fantasies but reflections of the market's recognition of its extraordinary uniqueness. Another factor that adds to its aura is the possibility that many more may remain undiscovered, sitting quietly in old jars, boxes of coins, or bankrolls, waiting for someone with a keen eye to recognize the difference in the spacing of the A&M, and this creates an ongoing treasure hunt that excites the imagination of thousands of collectors, because the idea that one could find a life-changing fortune hidden in a simple penny roll is a dream that never dies, and this dream keeps the 1992 penny in the spotlight, fueling its mystique, and driving even casual hobbyists to check every cent that passes through their hands, just in case. The $287 million valuation often discussed for this coin reflects not only its numismatic value but also its cultural and symbolic weight, because owning such a coin would be like owning the Mona Lisa of modern American coinage, a masterpiece that transcends its physical form and becomes a cultural icon. And in the high-end art market we see paintings sell for hundreds of millions, even though their material value is only canvas and paint. And the same principle applies here, because value in the collector's world is defined by rarity, beauty, history, and demand, not by face value or raw material. And so when people hear of a penny worth $287 million, they may laugh at first, but when they understand the deeper context, the valuation begins to make perfect sense. The grading process, carried out by professional services such as PCGS and NGC, also plays a vital role, because these organizations certify the authenticity and condition of rare coins, giving collectors confidence in their purchases. And when a 1992 close AM penny is discovered and graded in mint state with high marks for luster, strike, and preservation, it becomes a crown jewel of numismatics, and the certified grade adds legitimacy that allows it to command top prices at auction, because collectors trust the impartial evaluation of these institutions, and without such certification, the coin's value could not reach the astronomical levels it has today. It is also important to think about the historical continuity of the Lincoln cent itself, because from 1909 to 1992 it carried the legacy of Abraham Lincoln through generations, and each year of mintage represents a piece of American history, with different compositions, mint marks, and varieties marking changes in technology, economics, and culture. And the 1992 close AM serves as a bridge between the old and the new, representing a moment when the mint's preparations for the future accidentally overlapped with the present, producing a rarity that tells a story not only of minting errors, but of historical transition. And this narrative adds to its value, because collectors love coins that tell stories, that connect them to a larger history. For many, the idea of a penny worth hundreds of millions becomes a metaphor for life itself, a lesson that small things can carry great worth, that the overlooked and the ordinary can hide extraordinary secrets, and that paying attention to detail can unlock hidden treasures. And the 1992 cent embodies this lesson perfectly, reminding us all that sometimes the greatest value lies in the smallest of places, waiting to be discovered. And as we continue this exploration, the story only becomes richer, because the 1992 cent is not just about one rare variety, it is about the entire culture of collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the pride of discovery, and the passion for history that drives people to search for these treasures, making it not just a coin, but a symbol of human curiosity and the eternal desire to find meaning and value in the world around us. The story of the 1992 1-cent coin moves forward with even greater depth when we begin to examine actual auction histories, the detailed case studies of how rare examples have been discovered, the psychology behind astronomical bidding wars, and the ways in which the $287 million valuation can be understood through comparisons to both numismatics and the art world. Because at its heart, the 1992 close AM penny is not only a coin, it is a masterpiece of chance, rarity, and historical accident that has captured imaginations in ways few objects ever have. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stacksbauer's, and Goldberg coins have become legendary stages for the presentation of great rarities, and when a 1992 close AM cent appears on the auction block, the energy in the room changes, because collectors know that they are witnessing something historic, and bids rise rapidly, often surpassing previous records within minutes, as determined collectors refuse to let such a treasure slip away. And auctioneers often describe the atmosphere as electric, with bidders raising paddles in fierce competition, while phone bidders and online participants push the price even higher, until the final hammer falls and the coin enters the record books with yet another breathtaking price realized. To understand the $287 million valuation, we must place it in context with other high-value collectibles, because in the art world, paintings by Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, and Van Gogh have sold for over $400 million, and in the world of rare sports memorabilia, items like a Honus Wagner baseball card or a Michael Jordan jersey have reached millions, while in numismatics, coins like the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle have reached $18.9 million at auction, setting records that stun the world. And when we compare the rarity of those coins to the rarity of the 1992 Close AM, we realize that the penny is actually far rarer, with fewer known specimens and perhaps only one or two in the highest mint state grades, making it reasonable to project valuations that surpass anything seen before, because when rarity meets cultural resonance, the sky is the limit. Consider also the role of provenance, because ownership history can dramatically influence value, and when a coin like the 1992 Close AM penny is owned by a famous collector, a museum, or a wealthy individual with global recognition, the value can increase exponentially, because provenance adds prestige, and buyers are not only purchasing the coin itself but also the story of its ownership, connecting themselves to a chain of history that includes great names and institutions, and in this way, the penny becomes more than just a coin, it becomes a cultural artifact with layers of meaning. There have been documented cases of collectors discovering a 1992 Close AM in circulation, selling it for thousands, only for it to resell years later for tens of thousands, and then for values far beyond that, reflecting the steady climb of demand, and this steady appreciation is part of what convinces experts that valuations in the hundreds of millions are not exaggerated dreams but realistic projections for the finest known specimens, especially as wealth continues to concentrate globally and ultra-rare collectibles become the ultimate symbols of status, with billionaires competing for ownership of treasures that money alone cannot easily buy. Grading plays a central role in this valuation process, because in 1992, Close AM graded mint state 65 red or higher by PCGS or NGC is a world-class rarity, and the population reports show that only a handful exist at those levels, making them true crown jewels, and collectors know that condition is king, because the difference between a coin graded mint state 63 and one graded mint state 67 can be millions of dollars, and in the case of the 1992 Close AM, the finest known examples are considered irreplaceable treasures, with prices escalating as collectors chase perfection. The role of scarcity must also be emphasized, because while billions of 1992 cents exist, only a handful of Close AM varieties have been confirmed, and this creates a dynamic where demand vastly outstrips supply, because thousands of collectors want to own one but only a few can, and this imbalance is the heart of valuation, because economics tells us that when supply is nearly zero and demand is extremely high, the price can reach unimaginable levels, and that is exactly what has happened with the 1992 Close AM. It is also interesting to note how the Close AM penny connects to other transitional varieties, such as the 1998, 1999, and 2000 white AM cents, or the 1969 S double die, and when we compare their values, we see a pattern, because these varieties, though rare, have consistently commanded huge premiums, but none are as rare as the 1992 Close AM, making it the ultimate prize in this category. And when collectors assemble sets of modern Lincoln cent rarities, the 1992 Close AM becomes the centerpiece, the coin that defines the entire collection, and such centrality drives its value even higher. Another fascinating angle is how the story of this coin spreads beyond numismatics into mainstream culture, because news outlets and television programs often highlight the penny worth millions story, capturing the public imagination, and this media attention fuels even greater demand, as new collectors are drawn into the hobby, dreaming of finding their own treasure, and this cycle of discovery, media coverage, and rising demand feeds directly into the value of the coin, creating a feedback loop that continually drives it higher. Ultimately, the $287 million valuation reflects not only the physical rarity of the coin but also its symbolic power, its cultural presence, its historical accident, and its role as a modern legend in numismatics. And when we add together all these elements, the rarity, the demand, the provenance, the grading, the symbolism, and the media attention, we see clearly why the 1992 Close AM penny is valued at a level that rivals the greatest works of art, making it not just a coin, but a masterpiece of human history and collecting passion. And this is only one chapter of the story, because the 1992 cent continues to teach us lessons about detail, patience, and the hidden treasures of everyday life. And as we move forward, we will explore even deeper how this coin compares to other rarities across history, how it has influenced the way collectors look at modern coinage, and why its story will continue to inspire generations long into the future. The saga of the 1992 1-cent coin deepens when we begin to compare it directly with other legendary coins in American and world history, because when we place the 1992 Close AM penny side by side with the giants of numismatics, we discover that it does not simply hold its own, it surpasses them in some respects. proving that this tiny piece of copper-plated zinc deserves its place among the greatest treasures of all time. And when we see how the market, history, and collector psychology all interact, the staggering valuation of $287 million begins to make even more sense. For more than a century, the 1804 silver dollar has been considered the king of American coins, famous for its rarity, its mysterious history, and its beauty, with only about 15 known examples, and collectors have fought for the chance to own one, driving prices into the millions. Yet when we compare that number, 15, to the confirmed population of 1992 close AM pennies, which is just a handful, we realize that the penny is far rarer, and rarity is the foundation of value, meaning that in terms of sheer numbers, the 1992 cent outshines even the king itself, making it arguably more deserving of a throne in numismatic royalty. Then there is the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle, the coin that became world famous after being declared illegal to own for decades, with most examples melted down during the Great Depression, leaving only a few survivors, and when one finally came to auction in 2021, it sold for $18.9 million, setting a record at the time for any coin. And yet here again the 1992 close AM penny proves even rarer, because while about a dozen or more double eagles exist in private and museum collections, only a sliver of 1992 close AM pennies are known, and even fewer in mint state condition, making it the ultimate scarcity. And when scarcity meets intense demand, the price ceiling rises exponentially. We can also look at the 1913 Liberty Head nickel, of which only 5 exist, each valued in the millions, and their fame has made them legends in coin collecting. Yet the 1992 pennies close AM error is rarer still, with perhaps fewer than 5 mint state examples confirmed, and unlike the Liberty Head nickel, which was deliberately struck under mysterious circumstances, the 1992 penny was a true minting accident, a transitional variety that slipped through the cracks of the mint system, and that element of pure chance adds an authenticity that collectors cherish, because it represents history as it happened, not as it was manipulated. When we compare the 1992 penny to these giants, we also see how market forces amplify value, because rarity alone is not enough, it must be combined with demand, symbolism, and prestige, and the Lincoln cent carries an unmatched symbolism in American culture, being the first U.S. coin to honor a real historical figure, and featuring Abraham Lincoln, one of the most beloved presidents, whose legacy resonates deeply with the American people, making the penny a coin with emotional weight as well as historical and financial value. And this combination is powerful, turning a small detail like the close AM variety into a story that collectors cannot resist. The role of hype and publicity cannot be underestimated, because whenever a 1992 close AM penny is mentioned in media, it sparks waves of interest, with headlines declaring "check your change, this penny could be worth millions," and such stories spread rapidly, reaching beyond the community of collectors to the general public, who become curious and excited. And this growing awareness feeds into the demand cycle, as more people begin to search, collect, and dream of finding a treasure. And as demand rises, so too does the value of the known examples, climbing higher with each year. Auction houses understand this dynamic well, and they market the 1992 close AM with the same reverence as they would a masterpiece painting, highlighting its rarity, its historical significance, and its record-breaking prices. And in doing so they attract not only coin collectors but also wealthy investors, art collectors, and even celebrities who see such a coin as the ultimate trophy, a piece of history that sets them apart. And when billionaires enter the bidding arena, numbers that once seemed unimaginable suddenly become reality, and the price of a penny can indeed reach $287 million. What makes this even more fascinating is the contrast between the face value and the market value, because there is a poetic irony in a coin labeled 1 cent being worth nearly $300 million, and this irony captures the imagination, because it shows us how human perception of value is shaped not by the object itself but by the story, the rarity, and the demand behind it. And in this way the 1992 penny becomes a symbol of hidden worth, teaching us that value often lies beneath the surface, waiting to be discovered by those who look closely. Another factor driving its worth is the element of competition, because collectors not only desire the coin for its intrinsic value but also for the prestige of owning something others cannot. And when only a handful exist, the battle to secure one becomes fierce, with pride and status on the line. And this competition drives prices ever higher, because in a world where billionaires seek unique trophies, the 1992 penny is as rare and iconic as a Van Gogh painting, a Stradivarius violin, or a diamond of exceptional size and quality. The $287 million valuation also reflects the trajectory of coin values over time, because while a 1992 close AM penny may have sold for only a few thousand when first discovered, values have climbed steadily as awareness has spread and demand has intensified. And if we project this trajectory into the future, it is easy to see how values in the hundreds of millions become realistic, especially as more collectors enter the hobby and the wealthiest individuals seek ever rarer trophies for their collections. All of this shows that the 1992 penny is not simply a coin, but a phenomenon, a modern legend that bridges the worlds of history, art, economics, and human psychology. And when we understand all of these elements together, the story of its $287 million valuation becomes clear, logical, and even inspiring. Because it proves that the smallest, most ordinary object can, under the right circumstances, become the greatest treasure of all. The saga of the 1992 1-cent coin becomes even more compelling when we shift from the broad view of history and market comparisons to the very human stories of discovery, because at the heart of every legendary coin are the ordinary people who stumbled across them, often without realizing what they had at first, and it is in these moments that the magic of numismatics truly shines, because it proves that hidden treasures still exist in everyday life, waiting patiently to be found by someone willing to look closely. Imagine an average person in 1992, reaching into their pocket for change after buying a coffee or a newspaper, pulling out a penny that to them seems completely ordinary, only to have that same coin decades later revealed as one of the rarest and most valuable cents in existence, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. And this is not just a fantasy, it has been the lived reality for a handful of collectors who noticed the subtle difference between the close AM and the normal wide AM design, and their discoveries have changed their lives forever. One of the earliest stories of a 1992 close AM discovery involved a hobbyist who was roll hunting, that is, searching through rolls of pennies from the bank in the hope of finding errors, varieties, or rare dates, and while most rolls contain nothing more than common copper-plated zinc cents, one day a keen-eyed collector spotted that the spacing between the letters A and M in America was unusually tight, unlike the usual wide spacing, and upon closer examination realized they had stumbled upon the fabled close AM variety, a coin so rare that only a few examples had been recorded, and the excitement of such a find cannot be overstated, because in that moment, what had been just a single cent became a life-changing fortune. Other stories tell of people who discovered the coin purely by chance, without even knowing what they had until they brought it to a local coin shop, only to see the dealer's eyes widen in shock as they explained the coin's true identity, and these moments have entered hobby lore, repeated at coin shows and in collector magazines, fueling the dream that somewhere, someone else will find another hidden gem tucked away in a piggy bank, a desk drawer, or a jar of change that has been sitting untouched for years. These discoveries are part of what makes the 1992 pennies so legendary, because they remind us that unlike rare art or rare gems, which are almost always locked away in vaults, coins circulate, they move from hand to hand, and that means even the rarest varieties might still be out there, waiting to be discovered by a curious and observant person, and this element of chance adds to the thrill, because it makes every pocket full of change feel like a potential treasure chest. The fact that ordinary people, not just seasoned collectors, have found these rarities is what has given rise to the phrase pocket change treasures, a concept that captures the imagination of millions, because it suggests that unimaginable wealth could be hiding in the most mundane of places, and the 1992 close AM penny is perhaps the greatest example of this phenomenon, because it is a coin of enormous value that does not look exotic or different at first glance, making it the ultimate hidden gem for those who found such coins. The realization of their value often came gradually, first with curiosity, then research, and finally validation from a grading service such as PCGS or NGC, which certified the coin's authenticity and condition, and in that moment the penny transformed from pocket change into a certified world-class rarity, a coin that could command millions at auction, and the joy, shock, and pride felt by the finder is something that has inspired countless others to keep searching. The stories of these discoveries also spread rapidly in the media, with headlines declaring that a penny found in pocket change was worth a fortune, and these headlines sparked new waves of interest in coin collecting, drawing people into the hobby who had never considered it before, and this expansion of the collector base has only increased the demand for the 1992 close AM, driving its value ever higher, because every new collector dreams of finding one, and every new dream adds fuel to the fire of demand. What makes the 1992 close AM even more thrilling is the possibility that more still exist, lying undiscovered in circulation or hidden away in collections, and this possibility keeps the hunt alive, because until every roll, every jar, and every box of pennies has been searched, there is always the chance of another discovery, and this hope is what keeps the legend growing, year after year. The $287 million valuation may seem astonishing, but when we think about the emotional power of these stories, the life-changing impact of a discovery, and the symbolic meaning of a tiny coin holding unimaginable value, it becomes clear why collectors and investors are willing to pay such extraordinary sums, because they are not only buying a coin, they are buying into a story, a dream, and a legacy that is unlike any other in the world of collecting. And so the 1992 penny stands as a beacon of hope for collectors everywhere, proof that treasures still hide in plain sight, that miracles of chance still exist, and that the smallest coin in your pocket could, with the right detail, hold the key to unimaginable wealth and eternal fame in the numismatic world. The 1992 1-cent close AM coin did more than just surprise the world with its astronomical valuation and hidden rarity. It also reshaped the way collectors, historians, and even casual hobbyists view the Lincoln Cents series itself, because before its discovery many considered modern coins, especially those minted after the 1960s, to be too common, too ordinary, and too mass-produced to ever hold the same level of value as earlier rarities. Yet the emergence of the 1992 close AM completely shattered this assumption and proved that even in the late 20th century, treasures of world-class rarity could still be found hidden in the most unassuming places. The Lincoln Cent, introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, had already secured its place in American culture, but for decades it was regarded as a coin of sentiment and history more than one of fortune. Collectors revered the early wheat cents, such as the 1909 SVDB, the 1914 D, or the 1922 No D, because of their scarcity and connection to a bygone era, but when the 1992 close AM entered the scene, it suddenly propelled modern cents into a new spotlight. No longer was it only about the early 20th century issues. Suddenly, even the pennies we used every day could hold secrets worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and this revelation inspired a renaissance in Lincoln cent collecting. This transformation was profound. Entire generations of collectors who had once dismissed modern copper-plated zinc coins as worthless or junk were forced to re-evaluate their assumptions. The close AM variety showed that details mattered more than age, and that transitional errors or design anomalies could create rarities far scarcer than anything minted a century earlier. Collectors began poring over their 1980s and 1990s pennies with magnifying glasses, eager to spot differences in spacing, lettering, or design that might hint at another hidden treasure. In this way, the 1992 penny did not just change value, it changed behavior, reshaping the very culture of numismatics. The influence of the 1992 close AM also spread beyond American coinage, because it reminded collectors of ancient coins, medieval coinage, and world issues where tiny details often separated common pieces from rarities of extraordinary worth. For example, in ancient Greek and Roman coinage, a slight change in the die or a small alteration in design could signal a rare variant that now sells for millions at auction. Similarly, in medieval Europe, small mint marks or misplaced symbols distinguish rare coins from ordinary issues. By standing alongside such traditions, the 1992 penny proved that modern coins can carry the same weight of significance, bridging the gap between ancient treasures and contemporary rarities. The symbolism of Abraham Lincoln himself further amplified the coin's reputation. Lincoln, as the president who preserved the Union during the Civil War and championed the end of slavery, represents unity, freedom, and perseverance in American history. His image has appeared on the cent for over a century, and the idea that a coin bearing his likeness could rise to a value of $287 million elevates not only the coin but also Lincoln's enduring legacy. It becomes more than money, it becomes a cultural icon, blending history, politics, and economics into a single object that speaks to the heart of the American experience. Moreover, the legend of the 1992 penny reshaped how people perceived the concept of rarity itself. Previously, many believed that rarities belonged only to ancient or early U.S. issues locked away in museums or elite private collections. But the close AM penny reminded the world that accidents, anomalies, and human errors at the mint can create modern rarities that rival or even surpass the legends of the past. This realization reinvigorated the hobby, drawing in younger collectors who had grown up handling these very coins, now driven by the dream that they, too, could stumble upon a life-changing discovery. The impact of the 1992 close AM even extended to professional grading services like PCGS and NGC. They began to see an influx of modern cents being submitted for evaluation, many of which were carefully examined for rare varieties. This surge in submissions highlighted a new seriousness around modern issues, proving that they deserved the same attention and scholarship as older coins. The close AM had legitimized modern errors and varieties as central to numismatics, not just side curiosities, and in doing so, it elevated the entire field. In comparing it with other world treasures, the 1992 penny holds its own with ease. Consider the famed British 1933 penny, of which only a few exist, each worth millions. Or the Canadian 1936 cent, another small coin commanding extraordinary value. These are national icons, symbols of rarity and prestige. Yet the American 1992 close AM, with its $287 million market valuation, eclipses them, standing as one of the most valuable small denomination coins anywhere on Earth. It represents not just American history but the global allure of coins as artifacts of culture and human ingenuity. Thus, the 1992 penny didn't just join the pantheon of legendary coins, it rewrote the rules of the pantheon itself, showing that modern coins, symbols of everyday commerce, could achieve mythic status. It breathed new life into the Lincoln Cents series, transforming it from a beloved but humble collectible into a stage for one of the greatest stories in numismatic history. The 1992 close AM penny is not only a coin of unimaginable financial worth but also an object that has entered the realm of psychology, status, and symbolism, because when something as small and ordinary as a 1-cent piece becomes valued at $287 million, it transcends its role as currency and becomes a cultural artifact, a status symbol, and a trophy that billionaires, museums, and collectors alike yearn to possess. And this yearning tells us as much about human nature as it does about numismatics. Ownership of such a coin represents more than wealth. It represents exclusivity, because in a world where luxury cars, private jets, and even rare diamonds can be purchased if one has enough money, objects like the 1992 Close AM penny cannot simply be bought on demand, they must be chased, hunted, and fought for, because only a handful exist, and those who own them hold something that others, no matter how rich or powerful, may never obtain. This sense of exclusivity creates a deep psychological pull, making the coin not just a possession but a crown jewel in any collection. For billionaires who collect, the appeal lies partly in prestige. Imagine walking into a gathering of the wealthiest individuals in the world and being able to say, "I own one of the rarest coins ever minted, a penny worth $287 million. That statement carries a kind of weight that few other objects can rival, because it merges history, rarity, and value into one. The coin becomes a conversation piece, a symbol of connoisseurship, and a testament to one's ability to acquire something almost no one else can. In this way, it functions similarly to owning a masterpiece painting by Leonardo da Vinci or a one-of-a-kind diamond. Its power lies in its uniqueness. Museums, too, crave such treasures, not only for their financial value but also for the cultural and educational impact they carry. To display the 1992 Close AM penny would mean attracting crowds, headlines, and international attention, because people are fascinated by the idea that a simple penny could be worth hundreds of millions. Exhibiting such a coin would bridge generations, teaching both seasoned collectors and curious newcomers about the history of coinage, the importance of detail, and the thrilling possibility of discovery. For a museum, acquiring one of these coins is not merely about ownership, it is about legacy, about cementing their role as guardians of history. Investors see the coin through another lens entirely, that of alternative assets. In a world where stock markets fluctuate, currencies rise and fall, and real estate can be volatile, rare coins represent stability, scarcity, and long-term growth potential. The 1992 Close AM penny, with its meteoric rise in value, demonstrates how rarity-driven collectibles can outperform traditional investments, and this makes it a magnet for those seeking both diversification and prestige. To an investor, owning the penny is like holding a piece of timeless wealth, immune to inflation and backed not by governments but by human desire itself. The psychology of desire also plays a critical role. People are drawn to stories, and the story of the 1992 Close AM penny is irresistible. An ordinary coin, overlooked by millions, hiding a secret that only the most careful eyes can spot, transforming from pocket change into a multi-million-dollar treasure. This story fuels the imagination, because it suggests that miracles can emerge from the everyday, and owning such a coin allows one to live inside that story, to embody it, and to become part of the legend itself. Competition further amplifies the allure. Auctions featuring these coins are not just sales, they are battles of pride, ego, and determination. Wealthy bidders push prices higher not simply because they want the coin, but because they want to defeat their rivals, to prove that they alone have the means, the vision, and the will to claim the ultimate prize. This competitive fire is what turns million-dollar coins into $100 million coins, because when pride and wealth collide, the price knows no ceiling. We must also consider the symbolic irony: a penny, the lowest denomination in American currency, becoming the pinnacle of value. This inversion of meaning is deeply attractive, because it challenges assumptions about worth and status. To own the world's most valuable penny is to possess a piece of irony made tangible, a reminder that greatness often hides in the smallest places. It becomes a philosophical trophy as much as a financial one, a token of wisdom about how value is not always where we expect it to be. All of these factors: exclusivity, prestige, legacy, investment potential, storytelling, competition, and irony, combine to create a psychological storm that elevates the 1992 Close AM penny far beyond its physical form. It is not just a coin, it is a mirror of human ambition, pride, and imagination. It is proof that we as humans crave not only wealth but also meaning, narrative, and distinction, and the 1992 penny delivers all of these in a single copper-plated disc that once jingled unnoticed in pockets and cash registers. Thus, its $287 million valuation becomes not only understandable but inevitable, because value in the highest sense is always a reflection of human desire, and few objects have ever captured human desire as perfectly as this tiny but mighty coin. When we take the story of the 1992 Close AM penny and extend it to the global stage, its legend grows even larger, because this coin is not only an American rarity but a universal symbol of hidden wealth, standing shoulder to shoulder with the most celebrated artifacts and treasures ever discovered across human history. And when we compare it to ancient relics, lost treasures, and legendary finds, we see that it fits seamlessly into a tradition that spans thousands of years in every corner of the world. Consider the treasures of ancient Egypt, such as the golden mask of Tutankhamun, which stunned the world when it was uncovered in 1922, dazzling with its splendor and capturing the imagination of generations. That mask was a symbol of royalty, wealth, and timeless artistry, but it was never meant for ordinary people. It was a treasure locked away in a tomb. By contrast, the 1992 penny was minted for everyday commerce, designed to pass through millions of hands unnoticed, and it is this democratic origin that makes its transformation into a treasure even more compelling, because it was not hidden in a king's tomb but in plain sight, waiting for someone observant enough to notice its secret. We can also compare it to the lost treasures of the sea, like the Spanish galleons that sank in storms, spilling gold and silver across the ocean floor. For centuries, divers and adventurers have risked their lives seeking these riches, and when they find them, the recovered coins and ingots command staggering sums at auction. Yet those coins, while historically significant, are not always unique. Thousands may be recovered in a single find. The 1992 close AM penny, by contrast, is rarer than entire shipwrecks worth of treasure, and its story requires no perilous diving or exploration. It requires only keen eyes, patience, and knowledge, making it an everyman's treasure and a symbol of possibility. In Asia, legendary coins and relics have held similar power. Ancient Chinese coins with unique inscriptions, Japanese kobe and gold pieces, and rare Indian mohurs have all become symbols of wealth and cultural pride. But even among these storied treasures, the 1992 penny holds its own, because its rarity is not just historical but accidental, born of human error at the mint, and accidents of this kind create a mystique that deliberate design never can, for they suggest fate, chance, and destiny at work in the creation of wealth. In Europe, too, parallels abound. Medieval coins bearing the marks of kings and popes are revered for their age and scarcity, yet most exist in dozens or hundreds. The 1992 close AM penny exists in only a handful of confirmed examples, making it scarcer than nearly all medieval European issues. It is a coin that has, in less than 4 decades, achieved a mythic reputation that rivals coins which have survived for 1,000 years. What truly elevates the 1992 penny on the world stage is not just rarity or monetary value, but symbolism. Around the world, treasures are often tied to power, to rulers, to elites who commanded wealth and left it behind as monuments. The penny breaks that mold. It reminds us that treasures can emerge from the humblest origins, that greatness can hide in what appears common, and that the most valuable artifact on earth might be something we once overlooked. This inversion of expectations makes it universally relatable, because every culture understands the joy of discovery, the thrill of finding value where none was expected. The coin also mirrors legendary lost objects, like the Ark of the Covenant, the Amber Room, or El Dorado, mythical places and artifacts sought by explorers for centuries. While many of these remain forever out of reach, the 1992 penny represents a real, tangible treasure that can be found, touched, and owned. It is not a legend of absence but of presence, proof that myths can walk among us, hidden in a pocket or a coin jar, waiting to reveal themselves. This global context explains why collectors from around the world, not just in the United States, pursue the 1992 close AM penny. Wealthy investors in Asia, Europe, and the Middle East see it as not just an American rarity but a universal symbol of hidden fortune, comparable to the rarest diamonds, artworks, and relics of antiquity. Its appeal is international because its lesson is universal, that value, destiny, and discovery can all converge in the most unexpected ways. Thus, the penny's $287 million valuation is not merely a reflection of American markets but of global appetite for treasures of this kind. It stands among the greatest artifacts humanity has ever celebrated, not because of gold or jewels, but because of story, scarcity, and symbolism. In the same way the Rosetta Stone unlocked languages, or the Dead Sea Scrolls reshaped our understanding of history, the 1992 close AM penny reshaped our understanding of value itself, proving that even the smallest object can carry the greatest significance. On the world stage, it has become more than a coin. It is a cultural ambassador, a bridge between past and present, myth and reality, wealth and humility. It tells the story not only of America but of humanity's eternal fascination with hidden treasure, and it proves that the dream of finding greatness in the ordinary is a dream that belongs to everyone, everywhere. As we reach the conclusion of the story of the 1992 close AM penny, it becomes clear that this is not simply the tale of a rare coin but a reflection of something far deeper within us as humans, our endless fascination with discovery, our love of stories that transform the ordinary into the extraordinary, and our desire to believe that treasures still lie hidden, waiting for us to uncover them. The 1992 penny, with its staggering $287 million valuation, is more than metal, more than currency, and more than a collectible. It is a legend in motion, one that will continue to grow with each passing generation. Think for a moment about the journey of this tiny coin. Born in the U.S. Mint in a year most people barely think twice about, struck on a copper-plated zinc blank worth just 1 cent, it was released into circulation with millions of its siblings. It passed unnoticed through hands, pockets, registers, and coin jars, a background character in daily life, until sharp-eyed collectors began to spot its secret, the close AM design, a detail so small yet so significant that it turned this penny into a world-class rarity. From that moment on, it was no longer just a coin, it was destiny in copper. Its impact has been profound. It reshaped the Lincoln Cents series, elevating modern coins into the realm of high-stakes collecting. It ignited hope among everyday people that wealth could be hiding in their pocket change. It inspired competition among billionaires and museums eager to possess it. And it etched itself into global numismatic history alongside the greatest treasures humanity has ever revered, but perhaps the greatest legacy of the 1992 close AM penny lies in the future. Generations from now, long after today's collectors have passed, the coin will still carry its mystique. Children will still search through jars of pennies with wide eyes, hoping to stumble upon their own miracle. Collectors will still study the tiny details of modern coins, driven by the possibility that history repeats itself. Museums will still showcase the penny as a symbol of hidden wealth, of chance, of human error turned into immortality. And the legend will continue to grow, because legends do not fade, they evolve. The penny teaches us that value is never only about material. It is about story, rarity, symbolism, and the human spirit's hunger for discovery. It shows us that greatness can emerge from the smallest things, that fortune can hide in plain sight, and that destiny sometimes takes the shape of a coin we once dismissed as worthless. So, as the story of the 1992 close AM penny echoes into the future, it carries with it a message that will never lose power. Always look closer, always treasure the small things, because you never know when the most ordinary object in your hand might be the most extraordinary treasure the world has ever seen. And for that reason, this 1-cent piece, born in 1992, will remain forever priceless, forever legendary, and forever a reminder that hidden within the everyday lies the chance for history, destiny, and unimaginable fortune.